Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday morning. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. And you should be. You should be. If you're not, why not? Because it is a good Sunday morning. It's a Sunday morning that we like because Arsenal have won. They've won comfortably. They scored 3 goals. They didn't concede a goal. They're top of the Premier League. For now, anyway. Certainly at the time of recording this, by the time you're watching it or listening to it, maybe they won't be. But they are for now. So let's enjoy this Sunday morning, shall we? Because we deserve it. I think we deserve it. So let's enjoy it. So we're going to talk about yesterday's game in today's show, a lot more in depth. Obviously, I did my sort of immediate reaction and player ratings video from the press box yesterday after the game, but obviously looking at it a lot more in depth today. We'll go over some of the big talking points. I'm going to wax lyrical about a few Arsenal players because why the hell not? Because it is a nice Sunday morning. We're going to look at what Mikel Arteta's had to say. We're going to look at what some of you guys have had to say. I'll go through my player ratings again for people who didn't see the show immediately after the game yesterday. We'll talk about Martin Odegaard's injury, which is the one probably negative from what was otherwise basically a perfect day for Arsenal. It was just a really, really fun afternoon. I was in the pub afterwards. I was talking to some mates, and it's just like the overriding feeling was that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? It was, and it was very similar to Leeds. We've had 2 home games so far this season in the Premier League. Scored 8 goals, conceded none. And they've just been loads of fun. Just been a really enjoyable afternoon. At the Emirates, it was a very different looking Arsenal team yesterday. I mean, you look at that attack, especially after Odegaard went off so early, and you basically had an attack of Nwaneri, Eze, Madueke, and Gyokeres. It just obviously felt very, very new. It's something we haven't really seen before. And there was a sort of freshness, I think, to the team. And I think that sort of added to the enjoyment of the game. Obviously, the result helped. The fact you score 3 goals, you score a couple of absolute beautiful goals in it as well, obviously helps lift the mood. The new signings were all sort of front and centre of the game. I'm sure Mikel Arteta this morning is sitting there over his morning cornflakes, just thinking about Arsenal's transfer business and the work they've done and how influential they were in the game yesterday. And he's feeling very, very happy about themselves. I thought they started really well. I mean, there was some surprises. Obviously, no Declan Rice in the start 11. That was a big sort of surprise. You know, going to the game, I was talking on the Discord, did my predicted 11. I thought I was going to be absolutely right this time. I was not expecting Declan Rice to be rested, but I do think that's just something we're going to have to learn to sort of accept now that every week I think we're going to go to an Arsenal game, and this is a good thing. Go to an Arsenal game, think we're going to know what the 11 is going to be, and there'll probably be a couple of surprises in there because I think there has to be. You've got to rotate. You know, we've all called for Mikel to do it an awful lot. We've all said it's kind of the one big downfall so far of his management, really, is how he handles his squad and how he uses his squad. Now, he's got such an unbelievable squad at his disposal now. You know, as I said, the strongest squad I can ever remember watching Arsenal, that he has to use it and he has to rotate. And so I think we're going to have these surprises. We're going to go on to a starting 11. We're going to expect, you know, a certainty to be starting like a Declan Rice yesterday or a Gabriel or a William Saliba if he's fit, or, you know, Bukayo Saka when he's fit. And we're going to get to a game and they're not going to be in the starting lineup. And I just think that's what we're just going to have to get used to, that sort of thing. And we did it yesterday with Declan Rice. Marino came in. Mikel said afterwards that, you know, Marino scored 4 goals during the international break. He wanted to use that. And I think that was really good management. I thought Marino played really, really well as well. And yeah, I just thought Arsenal started very well. Madueke was electric. It was all, that first half was all pretty much down the right-hand side. You know, Eze was quite redundant in that first half. A couple of nice little touches with flicks and beat his man, dropped the shoulder, but mostly it was all down the right-hand side because Madueke just had his fullback on toast and was just beating him every single time. So Arsenal quite rightly were right, let's get the ball to Noni and see what he can do. And you just felt it was a matter of time before Arsenal got the goal they did. And, I mean, the way they did, wow. The sort of goal that just takes the roof off the stadium because you see it dropping out the sky and everyone's like, shoot, but not expecting him to shoot. Well, not expecting him to score anyway. And then when he hits a strike like that with that sort of technique and it just flies, yes, it took a slight deflection, but don't take that away from Martin Zubimendi. And no one inside the stadium initially knew that had taken that slight deflection. Just the noise when it hit the net of, you know, the roar of being delighted that Arsenal scored, but also of like, my God, what a goal, what a strike. And it was just set the tone. It was a really, really good goal. Nearly scored another one straight afterwards as well. And it was an absolute deserved lead for Arsenal at half-time, 1-0. And the key thing was then you were just like, kill it. Go into the second half, kill this game. Don't let it drag for 1-0 until sort of 75, 80 minutes. And then suddenly everyone gets nervous. Notts Forest start hitting long balls towards the penalty area. Don't let what happened last season happen again. And 46 seconds after the restart, bang, 2-0. And that was just such a big moment in the game, I think. And it's the sort of thing we need Arsenal to do week in, week out in this league now, is kill games off. Don't let it become a nervy affair, and it didn't yesterday, and that just added to the enjoyment of it all. I really, really like this goal, this second goal. I liked how direct it was. Calafiori just straight into the channel. Brilliant ball. Not great defending. Defender got caught under the ball, obviously. But then I just loved Eze first touch. No thinking about getting the ball down. No thinking about taking a touch. It was just like, right, where's Gyokeres? There he is. I'm pinging this across 6-yard box. Brilliant ball. And that's what you want Victor Gyokeres to do. First half, he was barely in the game, Gyokeres. It hadn't really worked out for him. A couple of touches hadn't, sort of bounced away from him. We were talking about him in the press room at half time, like, Victor looks a bit clunky out there at the moment. But that just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's not the most... Gyokeres, when you look at him and you watch him play and you watch him run, you watch him play with his back to goal, he's just not... How do I explain it? He's not the most attractive of footballers, if you see what I mean. It's not silky or anything like that, but he doesn't have to be. He just has to be that guy in the penalty area when a chance falls to him. Bang, he scores and he finishes the game off. And that's what he did yesterday. He was in the box. He was in the exact position that he needed to be, that the striker needed to be found. How many times in the last couple of years have we seen balls fly across the 6-yard box and there's no one there to turn it in and kill a game off? It's exactly what Gyokeres to do. And he did that yesterday. It was a really good ball by Eze, brilliant by Eze. But that's what I want to see Victor Gyokeres doing. And I thought he came alive a bit after that. Obviously, that lovely move with Nottingham Madueke that led to the chance when he hit the post. Really good centre-forward play, that as well. So he scored 3 goals in 4 games now this season. He's played at home twice against teams where Arsenal, last season could have struggled to break down and did struggle to break down this sort of team. And Gyokeres has scored 3 goals against those 2 teams at home. That's what we bought him for. That's what we bought him for, absolutely. To be that killer, to break teams open who are sitting deep and are causing Arsenal issues sort of defensively. And he's done that. And it just needs to keep doing that for the rest of the season. I don't care how he plays in the game for the rest of the game. I really, really don't. I just want him to do what he's done so far in those games against Leeds. And he did it really well yesterday. Brilliant from Eze, who I thought was so much more involved in the second half. You could see the confidence really coming through. Arsenal weren't playing it as much down the right in the second half as well. They're using Eze more. And he really came into the game. And it's great to see him get an assist. And then obviously Martin Zubimendi made it 3-0 with that header. And it was just a really comfortable play. Madueke was so good. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. Nottingham Madueke, I've just really enjoyed the game. When you look at the Opta stats here, Arsenal's XG only just a shade over 1. Obviously, Martin Zubimendi, I don't even know what the XG would have been for that volley, but it would have been very, very small, obviously, because it was just a very high probability that wouldn't end up in the net, but it did. And probably the same with the third goal as well with the header. But it was just a really comfortable. Look at that XG for Nottingham Forest, 0.04. I had 1 shot. And then this must be from the first half. I'm looking at that. That doesn't seem right at all, because there's no way Nottingham Forest only have 1 shot. I think I pulled the wrong graphic up there, so I'm going to move that from the screen. No wonder. I thought 1.05 felt a bit low for Arsenal, but 0.04, that's definitely the first half. So we won't talk about that anymore. Sunday morning for me. But it was just a really dominant performance from Arsenal and absolutely deserved to win. Mikel, speaking about it after the game, said it's a very good afternoon because after the players have been travelling the world for the last 10 days with the national team, different coaches and different habits, it was always a bit uncertain how we're going to play, how we're going to connect, the timings of everything, especially when we've only had 1 day to prepare for the game. But overall, I think we were very dominant, created some big chances, scored 3 goals, had another clean sheet, which is always very good. Another positive thing was the new relationships we are building and the way they are connecting, which I'm pleased to see today. Yeah, and there was, as I said, that front 3 was so new. And it's going to take time for them to really sort of adjust to playing with each other and what everyone's movements are, who prefers to do what. But there were some really good signs. That moment when Gyokeres hit the post in the second half, it was, Eze down the left, ball fell to sort of Gyokeres, who ran into the channel. Then Eze dragged his man across, Gyokeres went central, and Madueke was then in space on the right-hand side, and Gyokeres found him and then went on the outside and got the shot away. That's really encouraging, that, the sort of link-up play between the 3 of them. We don't know how often they're going to play together. Saka's going to be back soon, so we don't know. But the fact that they're already forming these relationships, I think, is a really, really big thing. And I'm not surprised Mikel pointed that out. And it was just a really great performance from Madueke, which I'm delighted. Look, I was a doubter of Nottingham Madueke when he signed. I freely admitted it on here. I just wasn't sure. Obviously, I wasn't one of those muppets who signed signatures and a petition of don't bring Nottingham Madueke to Arsenal, which is just frankly ridiculous. But I had my doubts about the signing, But so far, what I've seen from him, I just got to hold my hands up, like everyone on this screen is doing right now, and say, at the moment, it looks like I was absolutely wrong. He's been sensational. And yesterday, he was that was such an exciting display. That was a proper wingers display, wasn't it? It was just get the ball, beat your fullback, run at your man, just rinse and repeat, time and time and time again. Nottingham Forest defenders had an absolute nightmare against him. I mean, I can't even imagine. Was it Morato in the first half, and then I think Nico Williams came on in the second half. They got booked, and it was just, brilliant performance from Nottingham Madueke. I've got the stats here: most chances created 5, most crosses 14, most touches in the opposition box 12, most duels 1 9, most take-ons 4, most tackles 3, most fouls 1 2. He was just electric throughout. It was just such a good performance. When he went off, got a standing ovation from the Emirates, and everyone was singing his name. You wind the clock back 6 weeks, whatever it was, to when he signed, and the negative reaction to that. It takes a big character, a big personality to come in and do what he's done under the sort of scrutiny and spotlight that he was under when that signing happened. Fair play to him. It was really, really good to see. Mikel was speaking about him after the game. He was asked me, what he's brought to the squad. He said, a lot of courage. That's how I describe him. A lot of quality, but a lot of courage. When we were about to sign him and there was that reaction around him, I spoke to him and he was like, I'll go for it. I can't wait to put the shirt on and play for you guys. I said, wow, let's bring him. If I was convinced before, I'm even more convinced now that he's going to do it. I think he has such a power, such a capacity to repeat efforts, because to be able to do that physically, you have to be a different specimen. And I think he's certainly that. But he's very skillful, very unpredictable. He's so willing to learn and he brings joy. I look at him and he's always smiling. He's always trying things. He gets one wrong, he goes again. And that's what I love about him, the creative players, because you need that to be successful. And that's what I mean, the sort of rinse and repeat. It's what I kept thinking about when I was looking at Madueke yesterday. It was just time and time again, get the ball, go. Get the ball, go. Beat your full man, go. Beat your fullback, go. If it doesn't work, fine. I'm going to do it again next time. And it worked. And Nottingham Forest defenders must have been absolutely dizzy for him. And it's just been a really, really positive start for Madueke, really positive start to his Arsenal career. He's got to build on that now. It can't just be sort of, sometimes you get it with wingers, it's sort of inconsistency to their game. That's what makes Bukayo Saka so special, is that he's so consistent. He just does it time and time again. You can always rely on him to produce when he's playing. That's what Madueke has to bring, has to give to this team. And, the signs so far are great. And he's so young, and he's what you want. I mean, the camera flashed to Saka towards the end of the game. Him and Saliba were down in the touchline by the tunnel watching it. And you're just thinking, Saka's got to be sitting there thinking, it's going to be tough to get back into this side when you've got a player playing like this, and that's what you want. Even your best players need to know they've got to be in a fight for their places. And that's what this Arsenal squad has right now. And that's a really, really positive thing. So player ratings wise, right, I gave Raya an 8. He barely was in the game, David Raya. But that save he made from when Chris Wood, and that was a brilliant effort by Chris Wood. He meant that. Fair play to him. He meant that. That was unbelievable sort of imagination to think to do that when the ball was fizzed into him so much and chested it towards goal. And it so nearly worked. And it would have worked, I think. It would have gone in if Raya hadn't just got his fingertips to it. Didn't see it until you watched the replay. It was a phenomenal save from David Raya. So the one big moment he was called into action, he produced. He did what he needed to do, and he kept himself another clean sheet. So I gave David Raya an 8. I gave Timber a 7. Mosquera I thought was absolutely fantastic. Really, really fantastic. Mosquera is such an encouraging start, like Madueke, to his Arsenal career. Just barely put a foot wrong. Looked so comfortable in the ball. Brilliant defensive header in the second half, and someone whipped in a great cross that looked really threatening. Sort of got Timber out of a hole when Timber made that sort of mistake, and he got back and made the recovery tackle to stop. I think it was Hudson-Odoi getting a shot away in the second half. Just really, really solid. Gave Gabriel a 7. Calafiori gave an 8. Another really good performance, I thought, from Calafiori. Zubimendi, 9 out of 10. I mean, 2 very different goals. He'd never scored from outside the box before, I don't think, and then he slams in a volley like that, and then he's barely, I can't imagine he scored many headers in his career before, and he pops up with a header to get his second of the game. So I gave him a 9. I've put Odegaard as a 6 there just because you couldn't put an 8. I mean, I shouldn't really rate him because he went off so early, so it's not really a rating at all for Odegaard. Marino I gave an 8. Big decision to play him. Certainly raised eyebrows in the press box and all that sort of stuff. I saw ridiculous. Do I even want to mention this guy's name on the channel? I will. But Richard Keys and Andy Gray over on Behind Sports, I saw a ridiculous clip doing rounds from their sort of pre-match coverage of it. And Richard Keys like, the one thing that's going to stop Arsenal this season, Mikel Arteta. What's he doing there, leaving Declan Rice out? What's he doing? What's he thinking? And I mean, how stupid does he look at the end of that game? He's playing Marino. The guy's just scored 4 goals in 2 games in the international break. And he's just rested Declan Rice, and it worked perfectly. Marino was brilliant. I thought he had a really good game, Marino. Really, really linked up play well, great touches. I gave him an 8. Madueke, 9 out of 10. He was my star man. Even though Zubimendi scored 2 goals, I thought Madueke was the star of the show. He just ran the show for me. So I gave him a 9. Gyokeres, I gave 7. And Eze, I gave an 8. Obviously, subs came on: Martinelli, Trossard, Ranieri, Rice, Skelly, Lewis Skelly, Ethan. I thought Ethan had a good game. Again, he was trusted, by Mikel. The easy option maybe would have just been brought Declan Rice on when Martin Odegaard got the injury, but no, it was Ethan Ranieri came on just like against Leeds, and again he performed really well. I thought different sort of player, obviously in that role to Martin Odegaard, but I thought he played it really, really well. So fair play to Ethan Ranieri. So I gave him a 7. Trossard I gave a 7 because he got himself an assist with his first touch. Didn't really rate the other players who came on in that second half. So those are my player ratings. The big sort of negative from the game was obviously Martin Odegaard's injury. It was just like, what am I watching here? It's just deja vu, isn't it? It just was deja vu. It's exactly the same. It was bang over on his shoulder early in the first half. Tried to get up, tried to carry on, couldn't, went off. Ranieri replaced him at home. It's just crazy. It was so unlucky. I was reading his program notes. I said this in the show I did it sort of immediately after the game yesterday. I was reading his program notes and he was talking in it about the injury. And he was like, I'm absolutely pain-free now. It's fine. Went away with Norway, was absolutely fine. Played games over there. And then to fall like that, no, you didn't see anyone else fall like that in the entire game. And he did, and lands on the shoulder again. And it's just it's a worry. I mean, Mikel speaking after the game, these are what he had to say. He was asked about the injury. He said, yes, it's very similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same place, but it's a very similar injury. He wasn't comfortable continuing. He's played 2 games for Norway. Unfortunately, he couldn't carry on. So we have to assess him with the doctors, but I'm sure he will try his best to be fit for Tuesday. So it didn't sound like he was overly concerned by it. Like it was like, this is going to be bad. He was asked, is he going to need surgery? And he said, no, I don't think that. I'm not an expert, but they weren't concerned at all about that last time. In a few days, last time he was able to manage the pain, especially his injury wasn't that bad. I don't know the extent of 2 days, but of today's, but hopefully. So he didn't sound massively concerned by it. Look, you got Bilbao on Tuesday, and then you got City at the weekend. I would suggest that I'd be very, very surprised if Martin Odegaard plays in midweek in the Champions League on this. I think that Manchester City game that is looming large next weekend is certainly going to dictate maybe some of the starting 11 that we see in the Champions League, and quite rightly so. And if there's any doubt over Martin Odegaard, I would suggest that he's just going to be given a rest and then come back. When he came back, when he did the injury against Leeds, he was playing against Liverpool the following weekend, albeit from the subs bench, but he was playing against Liverpool the following weekend. So fingers crossed we get something similar this time around. It will be very interesting if he doesn't make it. And this is a conversation for later on in the week. Of course, we've got a Champions League game to navigate first before we really start to focus on Manchester City. But it'd be very, very interesting if he doesn't make it, if he's not fit, what Mikel would do in that. We saw what he did against Liverpool with the Marino, Rice and Zubimendi midfield. Would he do that again at home, or would, as in the first 2 home games we've seen so far when Odegaard has got injured, did he trust Ranieri from the start? Because he will look at it and think, we're at home, this is going to be a slightly different sort of game to what we were expecting at Anfield. But again, that's a conversation for another time, and fingers crossed anyway Martin can get himself fit, can recover from this, and we'll be back in action very, very soon. As I said, we do have the Champions League coming up, so there's going to be full focus on that. Now there's open training depth tomorrow at the training session, so we'll see who's involved in that and who is not. William Saliba was around yesterday. He was down on the touchline. Mikel said he trained yesterday, but Mikel just thought it's too early. And that, for me, is an absolutely wise decision. Again, it shows the strength of the squad. There'll be days gone by when, as soon as a big player gets back fit, it's just suddenly like, right, you're straight back in the team, because we don't have the squad to be able to compete without you. Arsenal are not in that position anymore. They can give Saliba extra days to recover, which is absolutely the perfect thing. Again, with Man City looming large, and as good as Christian Mosquera was, and as I said yesterday, the biggest compliment you could pay him was it looked like Arsenal didn't miss William Saliba yesterday. But when you're playing Man City, you're playing Erling Haaland, you definitely want Saliba and Gabriel together in that partnership. And that is it for me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. Appreciate. Oh, actually, sorry, I didn't bring up what some of you guys were saying. I was trying to cut this short, of course. Let's quickly run through. So many of you sent in your thoughts after the game. I wanted to pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Let's start with Sean, who says, great result. The Gyokeres goal today was the type of goal we were missing last season. Good to see someone in the box for balls like the one that Eze played in. With the performance from the new players, it's good. We don't need to rush any of the injured players back. Also, we sure there wasn't a zero missing on the reported transfer fee for Mosquera. Plays like a veteran in this league. Tom says, great result today. Big call by Arteta to play Marino instead of Rice, but it worked. Marino and Zubimendi just dovetail so well in the middle of the park. Both of them were brilliant at breaking up the counter-attacks and then going on the attack. Marino's such a good technical player. I love how he anticipates the tackle, shields the ball and spins away from the player. I think we should name him Marino, the Matador. Passy says, hey, Charles, Victor Gyokeres has had 2 open play goals now, and both goals have come from an early Calafiori long ball into the left channel. Do you think Arteta will lean into this as an option, especially when teams press high up the pitch? I think he is leaning into this as an option. I think the 2 goals that we've seen that you talk about there are an indication of that. Lil Joe says, absolutely over moon with that performance. Madueke, wow, he's a baller. Mosquera, absolute steal as well. The second goal was so refreshing. Lethal, fast counter attack. More of that, please. I agree with you there, Little Joe. Toucher says, these 2 games, Leeds and Forest, are exactly the kind we'd have drawn or even lost last season. Now with our exciting squad depth, we've won them 8-0 on aggregate. Great signs for the season ahead. This team feels different. JB Ling says, Nwaneri really needs to be in contention with Odegaard. Odegaard only has the edge of knowing when to lead the press. Nwaneri seems to get the attack moving faster. Not saying he's ahead of Odegaard yet, but he needs to be serious consideration every game. Soy Sauce Girl 2007 says, Eze, Madueke, Zubimendi, Gyokeres, Mosquera, they were all desperate time for Arsenal. They are so proud to show they belong here and give their heart for the club. No Saka, Odegaard, Havertz or Saliba, no problem. Who is this team again? Where is the panic over injuries? Where is the tedious draw so frequent last season? Thomas says, Mikel Merino is immense. And Stephen says, an absolutely fantastic performance from the Arsenal. Prediction, we're going to go through the entire Premier League season conceding the fewest goals ever on our way to winning the league. You heard it here first. Well, I hope you are right there, Stephen. That mentioned there by, who was it? Soy Sauce Girl said, no Saka, Odegaard, Havertz or Saliba. No problem. I mean, that just sums it up. Imagine that. Last season, no Saka, no Odegaard, no Havertz, Rice on the bench, no Saliba, no Jesus. Last season, we'd have been so worried. Yesterday, it was just like, it's fine. It's fine. Look at that team. Look at that squad. Look who's out on the pitch. It's a nice position to be, isn't it? Thank you, all of you, for getting in touch and sharing your thoughts on the game. Appreciate that. Apologies for almost ending the show without going through them. That is it from me now. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. Anything you want me to discuss, get into the comments, leave your thoughts, leave your opinions, leave your questions, and I'll pull them together and get them included in the show. Take it easy, everyone. Have a great end to your weekend. Speak to you later. Bye-bye.